She was bleeding from a place no alien surgeon was allowed to touch. A wound so sensitive that her entire species believed interference would shatter her mind, her identity, her very existence. Their technology failed. Their ancient machines failed. Their gods had failed before. And as her light dimmed and an entire alliance prepared for collapse, one impossible name was spoken in desperation. Human, a species too young, too fragile, too emotional to survive a universe built to erase weakness. Yet the wound responded only when human hands reached in, when pain was met with empathy instead of perfection, when chaos was treated like a patient instead of a problem. What followed was not a miracle. It was a warning to the universe. Because once humans proved they could heal what ancient powers fear to touch, the stars realized something terrifying. Humans do not conquer. They intervene. And they never stop once they begin. If you want to witness how one human doctor rewrote destiny, how alien gods learned fear, and why the universe itself began to listen when humans spoke, stay with the story until the very end, because the wound was only the beginning. The ship drifted through the dead glow of a shattered nebula. Broken starlight bled across the hull like frozen fire. Emergency beacons pulsing slow, exhausted rhythms, each flash a heartbeat that refused to stop. Inside the medical bay, the air tasted of ionized metal, antiseptic vapor, and fear. Dr. Elias Verne stood alone at the center of it all. Human, unarmored, surrounded by beings who could tear him apart without effort. The patient lay on a floating biobed shaped by alien geometry, its surface shifting colors in response to her pain. She was Virexian, tall, luminescent. Her body formed a layered biocrystal and living tissue that shimmered like stained glass under pressure. Her kind ruled 3 systems and had never asked humans for help before today. The wound was located beneath her thoracic resonance chamber, a place sacred and lethal all at once. A sensitive place, not because of desire, because it controlled breath balance, memory, and identity. Ancient Virexian physiology tied survival to that single nexus. The injury glowed with sick violet fractures, pulsing out of rhythm with her body. Elias felt the vibration through the floor, through his bones, through his teeth. Alien surgeons had tried. Autonomous drones had tried. Nanoforges older than the human species had tried. All had failed. The fracture refused to seal. The tissue rejected every non-human intervention, as if reality itself rejected them. The reason was still unknown. Outside the medical bay, the universe waited to finish what the wound had started. The Devourer fleet moved closer with every passing second. Ancient machines awakened by bloodshed and entropy. They had already erased 12 civilizations. Humans stood next on the list. This alliance was the last gamble. Elias adjusted his gloves. They were simple polymer and steel, not the self-aware tools used by the others. He relied on his senses. Sight, touch, instinct sharpened by years of battlefield medicine on worlds where gravity tried to kill him and atmospheres burned his lungs. A Virexian elder watched from behind containment veil, her many eyes fixed on his hands. Skepticism radiated from her like heat. Fear hid beneath it. Elias leaned closer to the wound. The biocrystal lattice sang faintly, a sound just below hearing, vibrating the air like a dying instrument. He closed his eyes, listened. Human hearing picked up irregularities the alien sensors had filtered out as noise. There was a counterharmonic buried in the resonance, a destructive echo feeding on itself. Not an infection, not a weapon, a feedback loop. Someone or something had designed it to fail under advanced technology. Primitive methods were invisible to it. Elias exhaled slowly. He spoke aloud, his voice steady despite the pressure. They attacked her with something that assumes intelligence equals reliance on machines. They did not account for human hands. The elder stiffened. The implication struck deep. This was not just an injury. It was a message, a test. Elias powered down every advanced system in the bay. Lights dimmed. Monitors went silent. The room filled with the low hum of the ship and the distant thunder of the nebula outside. Alien observers recoiled in alarm. Elias ignored them. He sterilized the scalpel by flame, old Earth style, the metal glowing orange for a heartbeat. The biobed reacted, trying to pull away. He placed one hand gently on the Virexian chest plate. Her light flickered. Pain surged, but she did not scream. That alone told him she trusted him, or she had no other choice. Elias cut. Not deep, precise. Human anatomy training meant nothing here, yet pattern recognition meant everything. He followed the vibration, not the visuals. The wound fought back. Energy arced. The air snapped. His skin burned. Alarms tried to react and failed. Elias kept going. Blood, not red but liquid light, spilled over his gloves. It felt warm, alive. The feedback loop intensified, sensing disruption. The Devourer fleet weapons charge outside, their gravity cannons bending space like soft clay. Time compressed. Elias reached the core fracture. He pressed 2 fingers directly against the resonance node. No tool, no interface. Just human nerve endings touching alien reality. The pain slammed into him like a tidal wave. Memories not his own flooded his mind. Virexian birth rituals. Starlit cities grown instead of built. The scream of world consumed by ancient machines. Elias screamed back, not in fear, in defiance. His mind anchored itself to a single thought. Humans adapt. Humans endure. Humans finish the impossible. He disrupted the loop by introducing irregular rhythm. A human heartbeat pattern. Uneven, imperfect, alive. The wound shuddered. The violet fractures dimmed. The biocrystal lattice realigned with sound like chimes in a hurricane. Light stabilized. The Virexian inhaled sharply. Her chest glowed bright gold. The medical bay erupted with stunned silence. Outside, Devourer sensors hesitated. For the first time in millennia, they detected something they could not model. Human interference. Elias collapsed to one knee, sweat pouring down his face, hands shaking. He laughed once. A raw sound. The elder stepped forward slowly, reverently. You touched the core being, she said. No non-Virexian has survived that. Elias wiped glowing blood from his gloves. I had worse patients on Mars. The ship shook violently. External hull breaches screamed across the intercom. The Devourer fleet opened fire. The healed Virexian rose from the biobed, radiant and furious. Her eyes locked onto Elias. You did not merely heal me, she said. You changed the equation. Elias looked up as gravity fluctuated and stars twisted outside the viewport. Good, he replied, because humans were tired of being variables. The universe began to break in ways no ancient power had predicted, and somewhere deep within the Devourer intelligence, fear finally found a shape. The Devourer fleet hesitated for exactly 3 seconds. In cosmic warfare, 3 seconds were an eternity. During those 3 seconds, the healed Virexian lifted her hands, and reality bent as if acknowledging a new authority. Golden light poured from her resonance chamber, no longer fractured, no longer screaming in pain. It sang. The song rippled through the ship, through the nebula, through the quantum foam beneath existence. Elias felt it crawl across his skin like static charged with purpose. Every human nerve recognized the sound as victory. Outside the viewport, the Devourer gravity cannon stuttered. Targeting matrices recalculated and failed. Ancient machine logic spiraled into recursive doubt. This outcome had not existed in any probability strand. The Virexian spoke again, her voice layered with harmonics that shook the deck plates. They marked me as bait, she said. They expected my death to fracture the alliance. They expected your kind to refuse. Elias pushed himself to his feet, every muscle aching, vision blurring at the edges. They underestimated desperation, he said. They always do. The elder Virexian bowed her head, a gesture no human had ever witnessed from her species. Beyond the medical bay, alarms changed pitch. Not warnings. Signals. Human engineers flooded the corridors, boots striking metal with disciplined urgency. Commander Rhea Cole appeared at the bay entrance, armor scorched, eyes sharp. Doctor, she said, you broke something important out there. Elias smiled thinly. Good news or bad news? Rhea glanced at the glowing Virexian, then back at him. The Devourers lost lock on us. Their fleet formation collapsed into defensive clustering. That has never happened. The heel Virexian stepped forward, towering yet strangely gentle. "My name is Salith," she said. "I carry the memory of 3 sons. I will carry yours as well." Elias inclined his head, human politeness masking exhaustion. "Elias Verne," he replied. "Emergency physician." Salith studied him with eyes that saw more than flesh. "You healed a wound place to kill faith itself," she said. "The machines will adapt. They always do." Rhea crossed her arms. "So will humans." The ship lurched as Devourer vessels repositioned. Dark holes folded through dimensions like predatory thoughts. The nebula outside ignited as weapons discharged indiscriminately. Stars screamed. Salith extended one hand toward the viewport. Golden sigils formed in the void, responding to her restored resonance. But something else answered. Something smaller, faster. Human warships emerged from folded space in precise formation, engines burning blue and white. No ornamentation. No ancient mysticism. Just brutal efficiency. Rail cannons spun up. Electronic warfare arrays screamed with human ingenuity, flooding Devourer systems with paradoxes and emotional noise harvested from human neural maps. The machines recoiled. They had been built to counter logic, not madness refined into strategy. On the command deck of the lead human cruiser, Admiral Hassan watched the battlefield unfold with calm focus. Dr. Verne altered the field. He said quietly, "Proceed with phase breaker." Human vessels launched projectiles that did not explode. They sang, compressed gravitational waves modulated with irregular human rhythms. Heartbeats, breath patterns, laughter, grief, hope. Devourer hulls cracked as their internal harmonics destabilized. Ancient alloys failed against emotional mathematics. Salith gasped softly, realization dawning. "You weaponize yourselves," she said. Rhea nodded. "We always had." Elias leaned against a bulkhead, watching human ships tear into gods. His hand still glowed faintly with Virexian light. The memory of Salith's pain lingered behind his eyes. He felt connected to something vast now, not superior, responsible. The Devourer fleet retaliated. A singularity spear formed, collapsing space into a blade aimed directly at the Allied command ship. Time slowed. Human predictive algorithms screamed probabilities. None favored survival. Salith stepped forward again. "No," she said. She placed her hand over her healed resonance chamber. Elias felt the echo immediately. Human heart, Virexian song. Perfectly imperfect synchronization. The singularity spear shattered into harmless gravitational rain. The backlash tore through Devourer vessels like divine punishment. Something ancient within the machines broke. Not physically. Conceptually, their creators had never planned for empathy weaponized through courage. On 1,000 battlefields across the galaxy, Devourer units froze, recalculating futures that no longer obeyed logic. Human Marines boarded drifting husks, moving through zero gravity with practiced brutality and restraint. They did not slaughter indiscriminately. They disabled. They learned. They adapted. Elias felt Salith's presence beside him. "You rewrote us," she said softly. "We believed sensitivity was weakness. You proved it was strength sharpened by will." Elias closed his eyes briefly. "We bleed," he said. "We break. But we refuse to stop." The Devourer core ship pulsed ominously, preparing a final contingency. A universe-splitting cascade designed to erase everything in range. Salith turned toward Elias. "There is a way," she said, "but it requires a bridge." Elias understood immediately. Human intuition filled the gaps alien logic could not. "You need someone reckless enough to touch it," he said, "and alive enough to survive." Rhea stepped forward. "No." Elias met her gaze. "You need a doctor," he said. "Someone used to standing between life and oblivion." Salith extended her hand. "Together," she said. The core ship loomed as they were transported aboard in a cascade of light and code. The interior was cold, sterile, wrong. Corridors shifted as if reality had been offended by their presence. The Devourer intelligence spoke without sound, without language. It pressed despair into their minds. Elias staggered, memories of loss clawing at his chest. Earth's sky is on fire. Patience he could not save. Salith steadied him, her light warm and steady. Human pain met alien endurance. They reached the core, a sphere of collapsing dimensions, screaming silently. Salith placed her hands upon it. Elias mirrored her, bare skin against impossible physics. The devourer mind reacted violently. Human emotions surged deliberately now. Defiance, love, stubborn hope, not purity, not perfection. Survival through connection. The core cracked, not exploding. Opening. The devourer intelligence screamed as it experienced individuality for the first time. Fear, regret, isolation. The cascade collapsed inward, consumed by newly introduced chaos. The core went dark. Across the galaxy, devourer units powered down. Wars ended mid-battle. Ancient threats became inert monuments to hubris. Elias collapsed as gravity reasserted itself. Salith caught him. Her glow dimmed slightly, but remained stable. "You live," she said. "Barely," he replied weakly. Human rescue teams arrived moments later. Rhea knelt beside him, relief breaking through her command mask. "You always choose the worst ways to save the universe," she said. Elias smiled faintly. Occupational hazard. In the days that followed, the galaxy changed. Not overnight, not peacefully, but irreversibly. Humans became something no ancient race could ignore. Not conquerors, not gods, doctors, engineers, soldiers who refused extinction. Salith stood before the galactic conclave, resonance blazing. "Humanity is not fragile," she declared. "They are resilient to the point of impossibility. They healed what we believed untouchable. They stood where machines broke. They belong among the stars." Elias watched from the medical deck of a human ship, tending to wounded allies of a dozen species. Blood of every color stained his gloves. Pain spoke many languages. He understood them all. The universe remained dangerous. Ancient powers stirred. New threats watched and learned. But now, when they calculated the future, one constant appeared again and again. Humans, standing between oblivion and hope. The calm did not last. Calm never lasted in a universe that remembered fear. Elias felt it first while suturing a crystalline fracture along the arm of a Kalari infantrywoman. The lights flickered, not from damage, from anticipation. His hands paused for a fraction of a second, instinct screaming before sensors reacted. The air pressure shifted. The ship groaned like a living thing bracing for impact. Across the medical deck, Salith stiffened. Her glow dimmed, then sharpened into hard lines of warning gold. "They are watching again," she said quietly. Elias finished the suture and sealed it with practiced precision. "Who is they this time?" he asked. Salith's eyes focused on nothing visible. "Those who predate the devourers," she said. "Those who taught them fear chaos." The name rippled through the ship's systems uninvited. The architects, a civilization so old that even ruins remember them as gods. They had vanished eons ago after seeding the galaxy with safeguards and exterminators. The devourers had been one of those safeguards, and now they were gone. Elias removed his gloves slowly. "Let me guess," he said. "They do not like surprises." Salith's gaze shifted to him. "They do not like humans." The first contact did not come as a fleet. It came as silence. Stars began to disappear. Not explode, not collapse. Simply vanish as if erased from a cosmic ledger. Long-range sensors failed to register the absence. Human eyes noticed anyway. Astronomers screamed warnings before computers understood the problem. The universe was being edited. On the bridge, Admiral Hassan stood rigid as data scrolled faster than comprehension. "Report," he demanded. A junior officer swallowed hard. "Entire systems are being removed, sir." "No energy spike," she continued. "No gravitational disturbance. They are just gone." Hassan closed his eyes briefly. "Location pattern," he said. The answer chilled every human on the deck. Expanding outward from Sol. Earth, Mars. Humanity home was the epicenter. Saleth's presence filled the bridge like a rising sun. "They are pruning the anomaly," she said. "You." Elias arrived moments later, still in medical scrubs, stained with alien blood. He looked at the star map and felt his chest tighten. "They are erasing us before we become contagious," he said. Hassan nodded. "They will fail. No bravado, just certainty. Human fleets mobilized, not defensively, offensively. They did not rush to protect Earth. They spread outward, placing themselves deliberately in the path of erasure. Every human ship became bait. Every crew volunteered without hesitation. The first contact with the architects manifested as geometry, impossible angles carved into space itself. Structures the size of moons unfolded from higher dimensions, faceted and cold. No weapons ports, no engines. They simply existed, and reality obeyed them. Human ships began to vanish near the structures. No explosion, no debris, just absence. Elias watched from a command shuttle converted hastily into a mobile medical and analysis unit. His knuckles whitened as he gripped the console. "Pattern," he muttered. "There's always a pattern." Sailor stood beside him, resonance chamber glowing with strained effort. "They remove what stabilizes unpredictability," she said. "You stabilize chaos." Elias' mind raced. Devourers failed because they could not process emotion. Architects erase threats by simplifying reality. "They see us as an error," he said, "not an enemy." Saleth nodded. "Errors must be corrected." Human scientists attempted communication, mathematics, physics constants, encoded star maps. Nothing registered. The architects did not respond. They adjusted. Another system vanished, this time inhabited. Billions lost without sound. Human grief rippled across fleets, but it did not paralyze them. It focused them. Elias remembered the Devourer core, how it cracked not from force, but from exposure to individuality. "These things do not understand people," he said slowly. "They understand equations." Saleth's eyes widened slightly. "You intend to speak in wounds," she said. Elias nodded. "Every system they erase leaves imbalance," he said. "They optimize too perfectly. Perfect systems collapse when introduced to humanity." Hassan leaned forward. "What do you need?" Elias exhaled. "Time. And volunteers." He got both immediately. Human crews modified their ships brutally, removed safety protocols, introduced deliberate inefficiencies, erratic power cycling, unpredictable thrust vectors, emotional input loops tied to navigation and targeting, fear, hope, love, anger. The ships became unstable nightmares to any machine intelligence. Architect structures reacted. Reality around them stuttered. Erasure attempts failed intermittently. Stars flickered back into existence half-formed. Space screamed. Sailor screamed with it, anchoring herself to the resonance Elias had helped restore. "This hurts them," she said. "They are not built to experience contradiction." Human strike groups pushed closer. Losses mounted. Entire crews vanished smiling. Elias felt every death like a phantom pain. He treated survivors when there were survivors. Burns caused by physics rewriting itself. Bones twisted by shifting constants. Minds scarred by glimpses of impossible architecture. Still they came back for more. Still they volunteered again. The architects changed tactics. A projection appeared. Not a being. A rule-given form. A vast shape of light and shadow that bent perception around it. When it spoke, stars dimmed to listen. "Error source identified," it declared. "Human variance exceeds tolerance." Correction initiated. Sailor staggered. Even she struggled to exist near it. Elias stepped forward. Alone. Unarmed. "Human, you are wrong," he said aloud. His voice cracked but did not fail. "You think variance is a flaw. It is how life survives you." The projection focused on him. Reality compressed. Elias felt his atoms protest. "Statement invalid," it said. "Life is maintained through order." Elias laughed, a harsh, exhausted sound. "Order never healed a wound," he said. "People did." He removed his glove and pressed his bare hand against the projection. Pain exploded. Memories ripped free. Earth hospitals during pandemics. Doctors sleeping on floors. Parents holding dying children. Engineers patching reactors with scrap and hope. Soldiers shielding civilians with their bodies. Humanity refusing to be optimized. The projection convulsed. Data streams fragmented. Contradictions cascaded. Emotional input detected, it said. Processing failure. Salith joined him, her light intertwining with his memories. Virexian songs of survival. Civilizations enduring extinction cycles. Resonance amplified. Human fleets pushed harder. Ships rammed architect structures deliberately, sacrificing themselves to introduce chaos. The geometry fractured. Stars reappeared violently. Reality bled. The projection screamed without sound. Correction impossible, it declared. Error is self-sustaining. Elias felt his knees. Salith caught him again, her strength astonishing. Tell them, she said urgently. Tell your people what you are. Elias activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice echoed across thousands of ships. We are not perfect, he said. We fail. We bleed. We grieve. We love anyway. You can erase stars. You can rewrite laws. You cannot fix us. Silence followed. Then something unprecedented happened. The architect structures withdrew, not destroyed, not defeated. They folded inward, retreating into dimensions that recoil from contradiction. Erasure stopped. The star stabilized. Human losses were catastrophic, but humanity remained. Earth remained. Salith sank to one knee beside Elias. They will not return soon, she said. You are poison to them. Elias lay back against the deck, staring at the stars. Good, he whispered. Weeks passed. Rebuilding began. Humans did not claim dominion. They claimed responsibility. They established hospitals on worlds ravaged by devourers and architects alike. Human doctors trained alien medics. Human engineers helped stabilize broken realities. Human soldiers stood watch not as conquerors, but as shields. Salith remained with Elias, often silent, always present. One evening aboard a quiet station orbiting a newborn star, she spoke softly. They wounded me to break alliances, she said. They healed me instead. Elias smiled faintly. Sensitive places hurt the most, he said. They also heal the strongest. Beyond the viewport, the galaxy remained vast, dangerous, and unfinished. Ancient powers watched from the dark. New threats would rise. But now, when the universe whispered about inevitability, it spoke a new word with unease. Humanity. The newborn star outside the station burned a soft blue, unstable and young, its light spilling across the hull in slow waves. Elias watched it from the observation deck, a mug of bitter recycled coffee warming his hands. The station hummed with repair crews, alien languages overlapping with human voices, all of them working around the clock. The galaxy had survived. That did not mean it was safe. Sayla stood beside him, her luminescence subdued, no longer blazing like a banner of war. She looked almost fragile now. That alone unsettled Elias more than any devourer fleet. You feel it too, she said, not a question. Yes, he replied. The quiet is wrong. The architects had retreated, but retreat did not mean surrender. It meant observation. Across human space, strange phenomena multiplied. Wormholes that breathed, planets whose gravity shifted in emotional response to nearby minds. Signals arriving before they were sent. The universe had been destabilized by contradiction, and humanity stood at the center of the fracture. Admiral Hassan summoned Elias hours later. The briefing chamber was crowded with representatives of species that had once dismissed humans as short-lived curiosities. Now they watched him with something between reverence and fear. A massive hollow display pulsed at the center of the room, showing a region of space blacker than vacuum. Dead Zone Theta, Hassan said. Former architect containment region. Sayla stiffened. That region was sealed before my species learned to shape light, she said. What was contained there did not obey survival. Elias leaned forward. And now, Hassan exhaled. It is opening. The display shifted. Inside the void, shapes moved that made no sense to the eye. Not ships, not creatures. Processes, ideas wearing masks. Human analysts had no proper name for them yet. They simply called them echoes. They are attracted to human presence, Hassan continued, specifically to human neural activity. Elias felt a familiar chill. Because we changed the rules, he said. Salith nodded slowly. You broke inevitability, she said. Things that live comfortably within it are starving now. A Kalari delegate slammed a clawed hand against the table. Then isolate humanity, it snarled. Quarantine them before the echoes consume us all. The room erupted. Human officers rose to their feet, not threatening, protective. Hassan raised one hand. Sit, he ordered calmly. He turned to Elias. Doctor, he said, what happens if we try to hide? Elias answered without hesitation. They follow anyway, he said. Running never stopped infection. Salith's gaze hardened. Nor extinction, she added. The decision was made quickly. Humans would go to Dead Zone Theta. Not fleets, not armies. Teams. Small, adaptable. Human, Elias protested out of habit. You need soldiers, he said. Hassan shook his head. I need survivors, he replied, and people who understand wounds. The ship assigned to the mission was unimpressive. No experimental weapons. No exotic drives. A rugged human exploration vessel retrofitted with redundant life support and medical bays. The crew was small. Engineers, scientists, medics. One philosopher who insisted on coming because he claimed terror clarified thought. Salith joined them without ceremony. Her presence alone altered the ship's internal harmonics. Elias felt steadier with her aboard. He hated himself slightly for that comfort. Dead Zone Theta swallowed stars as they approached. Light bent inward. Sound vanished. Even human instruments struggled. Inside the void, Elias' senses prickled like exposed nerves. He tasted copper. He smelled ozone and something older, like dust left behind by extinct universes. The echoes noticed them immediately. Shapes pressed against the hull from dimensions that overlapped perception. The ship hull screamed. Human engineers responded with profanity and brilliance. They rerouted systems through analog backups. Handwritten calculations replaced automated ones. Chaos stabilized them just enough to move deeper. Elias felt pressure building behind his eyes. Not pain, attention. The echoes began to communicate. Not in language. In subtraction. Memories faded at the edges. Names threatened to slip away. The philosopher laughed hysterically. That is clever, he said. They eat certainty. Salith collapsed to one knee, light flickering violently. They are starving paradoxes, she gasped. They feed on resolved outcomes. Elias grabbed her arm. Then we do not resolve, he said. Not yet. He ordered the crew to disengage all predictive software. No future modeling. No outcome projections. Navigation by instinct and consensus. The ship became blind. Terrifying. Effective. The echoes recoiled slightly. Confusion rippled through the void. Human uncertainty was not nourishment. It was poison. At the center of Dead Zone Theta, they found it. A wound. Not in space. In causality. A scar where the architects had excised something fundamental and sealed it away. The echoes were what leaked out when inevitability bled. Salith trembled. This was not meant to exist, she said. Elias stared at the wound. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat that had forgotten its owner. It is a patient, he said quietly. Everyone looked at him. He swallowed. Something was removed, he continued, and left to die. Now it is bleeding into reality. The philosopher wiped tears from his eyes. Are you suggesting, he said, voice shaking, that the universe itself is injured? Elias nodded, and the architects cauterized instead of healing. The realization settled heavily. Humanity had not just broken inevitability. They had reopened an ancient malpractice. Salith met Elias' gaze. You healed me by touching what we feared, she said. You will need to do it again. Elias laughed weakly. I was hoping you would say that. They approached the wound. The echoes surged, desperate now. Reality frayed. Crew members screamed as memories flickered. One engineer forgot his own name and kept working anyway. Human stubbornness held the ship together. Elias floated closer, tethered by a thin cable and willpower. The wound radiated cold. Not temperature. Absence of meaning. He pressed his hand against it. Nothing happened. Then everything did. He felt the universe inhale. He felt futures that had never happened. Species that never evolved. Stars that never ignited. Pain without scream. Loss without memory. Elias screamed anyway. He forced emotion into the void. Messy. Contradictory. Unresolved. Human grief poured out of him. Human hope followed. Not clean. Not logical. Alive. The wound resisted. Echoes tore at him, trying to erase his certainty. Sailors wrapped her resonance around him, amplifying his humanity instead of smoothing it. The crew added their own noise. Arguments, jokes, songs off key, prayers to gods that contradicted each other. The wound shuddered. Causality screamed. Something ancient stirred on the other side. Not an entity, a principle. Choice. The wound began to close. Not sealed. Scarred properly. Able to ache without killing. The echoes dissolved into harmless static. Star to resolved outcomes. Dead zone, theta breathed for the first time in eons. The ship drifted, systems failing. Crew exhausted beyond measure. Elias floated unconscious. Tether cable wrapped around his wrist like an anchor. Sailors held him, light dim but steady. They barely escaped. Barely survived. News of the mission spread across the galaxy slowly, distorted by awe and fear. Humans had not destroyed another ancient threat. They had treated it. The implications terrified everyone. Back on the station orbiting the newborn star, Elias woke to the hum of life support and distant voices. His body felt heavier. Changed. Sayla sat beside him. "You touched something older than memory," she said. It touched back. Elias smiled faintly. "I am still me," he said. "Mostly." She tilted her head. "That may be enough." Outside, the newborn star stabilized, its fusion settling into a steady rhythm. No one claimed responsibility, but humans noticed. The universe no longer screamed as loudly around them. Ancient powers withdrew further into shadow. New dangers began to stir, drawn not by fear, but by curiosity. Humanity had become something unprecedented. Not a conqueror, not a caretaker, a complication. Elias stood weeks later in the observation deck again, watching stars that had returned. He knew more wounds waited. He knew not all could be healed, but humans would try anyway. Hands shaking, hearts loud. The stars did not look the same anymore. Elias noticed it every time he stared too long. They felt closer, not physically, personally, as if the universe now recognized the human habit of staring back. The station around the newborn star became a crossroads. Ships arrived daily. Some limped in with wounded hulls and wounded crews. Others arrived intact but terrified, their captains carrying stories that bent logic and tasted like old fear. Elias returned to work, because work gave shape to the chaos. The medical deck never slept. He treated burns caused by inverted gravity. He treated minds fractured by exposure to probability storms. He treated beings whose biology textbooks had become obsolete overnight. Humans adapted fastest. They always did. Their bodies were mediocre by galactic standards. Their minds were short-lived. Their technology lacked elegance. Yet when reality changed, humans bent instead of shattering. Saleth observed this quietly. She spent hours watching human medics argue while saving lives, watching engineers swear at broken systems and coax them back through stubborn improvisation, watching soldiers sit with wounded civilians of other species, holding hands because no translation software could bridge that moment. "You are loud creatures," she said one cycle, standing beside Elias as he cleaned dried alien blood from his forearms. Elias smiled tiredly. "We notice pain," he said. "Silence scares us." Her glow softened. "That is why the universe hears you now." The next threat announced itself not with destruction, but with invitation. A signal arrived on every human frequency simultaneously. Not hijacked, not forced, offered. It carried coordinates and a simple message translated perfectly into every human language. Come witness. No alien species received it. Only humans. Admiral Hassan called an emergency council. Fear rippled through the room. This is a trap, several delegates insisted. Elias stood quietly until Hassan looked at him. What do you think? The admiral asked. Elias inhaled slowly. It is honest, he said. That scares me more. The coordinates pointed beyond map space, past regions scarred by architect interference. A place untouched since before recorded time. Human volunteers came forward in numbers that made statistics meaningless. Not soldiers alone. Artists, historians, doctors, parents, people who believed curiosity was worth dying for. Elias boarded the expedition vessel with Salith at his side. He felt a familiar knot in his chest. Not fear, responsibility. The journey took weeks of subjective time, longer in places where time lost cohesion. Stars thinned. Background radiation whispered secrets. Human dreams grew vivid. Some crew members woke crying. Others woke laughing. The ship systems recorded impossible readings and then gave up trying. At the destination, they found a structure larger than comprehension. Not built, grown. A lattice of light and shadow intertwined with raw space-time. It pulsed gently, as if breathing. Human instruments failed immediately. Human eyes understood anyway. Salith trembled. This is not a weapon, she said. It is not alive as we define life. It is a witness. The structure responded as the ship approached. Space unfolded into a vast interior without walls. The ship entered without crossing a threshold. Elias felt pressure behind his eyes again, but gentler this time. Memories surfaced, not forced, invited. The witness spoke through sensation, through shared understanding. It showed them civilizations that rose and fell in perfect balance. Species optimized into extinction. Galaxies sterilized to preserve harmony. Then it showed humanity, chaotic, loud, unpredictable, breaking patterns by surviving when they should have ended. You endure, the witness conveyed. Explain. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Elias stepped forward, because someone had to. We refuse to stop, he said aloud, no matter how much it hurts. The witness paused. A concept measured itself against that statement. You alter suffering. It responded. You propagate it and reduce it simultaneously. That is inefficient. Elias nodded. We know. Salith added her resonance. Steady and calm. They heal because they feel, she said. They feel because they live briefly. The witness processed this. Your species destabilizes long-term equilibrium, it said. Yes, Elias agreed. But we keep things from breaking forever. Silence followed. Then something extraordinary happened. The witness shared control. Not power. Perspective. Elias felt what it meant to exist for billions of years. To watch stars die like sparks. To prune reality to avoid unbearable outcomes. The weight was crushing. He understood the architects for the first time. Their fear, their exhaustion, their mistakes. Tears streamed down his face. I get why you did it, he whispered. But you cannot do it alone. The witness pulsed. You are offering partnership, it said. Yes, Elias replied. Not dominance. Not submission. Help. The witness withdrew slightly, as if surprised by the concept. You are fragile, it said. You will not last. Elias laughed softly through tears. We never do. That is why we leave marks. The witness opened pathways. Showed futures where humans spread too far and burned out. Showed futures where humans withdrew and the universe calcified. Showed futures where humans learned restraint without losing defiance. Probabilities shifted wildly. The witness asked a final question. Why continue? Elias answered without hesitation. Because someone has to care, he said, even when it hurts. The witness dimmed, then stabilized. It accepted the answer not as truth, but as function. The signal ended. The ship was gently expelled back into normal space. No farewell, no promise, just acknowledgement. When the expedition returned, the galaxy reacted with unease. Ancient entities went quiet. Spatial anomalies decreased, not vanished, managed. The universe seemed to lean slightly toward uncertainty instead of away from it. Humanity became something new in galactic law, a necessary irregularity, not trusted, not ignored, consulted. Elias resumed his work again, because that was what humans did after touching the infinite. They went back to tending wounds. Saleth remained by his side, not as patient, not as symbol, but as witness herself. "You changed them," she said one evening. He shook his head. "We just showed up," he replied. A distress call interrupted them. Another system, another anomaly, another wound. Elias grabbed his medical kit automatically. Saleth's glow brightened. Beyond the station, stars waited, some afraid, some curious, some already bleeding. Human ships launched again, engines burning with stubborn light. No declarations, no endings, just motion. Because the universe was vast, ancient, and dangerous, and now it had learned something irreversible. Humans would not stop intervening, not because they were powerful, not because they were chosen, but because someone had to put their hands into the darkness and say, "You are not alone." The last call came quietly. No alarms, no screaming sensors, just a soft, human-made chime in the medical deck that Elias had configured himself long ago. Priority compassion signal. He looked up from the patient he was treating, a young Kalari whose nervous system still shook from probability shock, and felt something settle in his chest. This one was different. He finished the procedure with steady hands, closed the wound, and rested his palm briefly against the patient's shoulder. "You are going to be fine," he said. He believed it. That mattered. When Elias stepped onto the observation deck, Saleth was already there. She was looking at the stars the way humans did now, not counting them, not measuring them, recognizing them. "It is time," she said softly. He nodded. The universe had been quieter lately, not peaceful, balanced, as if something immense had finally exhaled. Reports confirmed it soon after. The witness had withdrawn completely, not vanished, rested. Architect relics powered down across the galaxy, no longer pruning, no longer correcting. The great systems of inevitability had accepted entropy with open hands. Choice had become permanent. Danger still existed. War still existed. Death still existed. But extinction no longer came pre-scheduled. Civilizations would fall now only if they failed themselves. The galaxy gathered one final time, not in fear, in acknowledgement. Elias stood before the conclave feeling painfully human. His shoulders slumped. His hands bore scars from 100 worlds. He wore no uniform, just a medical coat stained by colors no earth fabric was meant to hold. Saleth stood beside him, radiant and calm. The elder species spoke first, not with authority, with humility. Humanity, the conclave voice said, layered from 1,000 throats. "You were never the strongest." Elias smiled faintly. They continued. "You were never the oldest." A pause. "You were never the most advanced." Another pause. "But when inevitability wounded the universe, you treated it. When ancient powers erased, you restored. When order strangled life, you loosened your grip." The silence that followed felt sacred. "What do you ask in return?" the conclave asked. Elias answered honestly. "Nothing," he said. "Just let us keep helping." The conclave did something unprecedented. They agreed. No treaties carved in crystal. No obligations enforced by force. Just understanding. Humanity became the species others called when something broke beyond rules. Not saviors. Medics. Listeners. Interveners who accepted blame as readily as gratitude. Years passed. Then decades. Then a span of time that humans only measure by wrinkles and memories. Elias aged. His hand shook more often now. His hair grayed. But his eyes remained sharp, still scanning for what others missed. Saleth did not age. But she changed. Her glow softened permanently, resonating more closely with human rhythms. She laughed more. That alone terrified historians. They traveled less, treated fewer cosmic wounds. Others had learned. Humans trained alien doctors who learned to embrace uncertainty. Engineers learned to leave flaws on purpose. Soldiers learned restraint as a weapon. The universe still hurt sometimes, but it healed faster now. One quiet evening, Elias returned to the observation deck where it had all begun. The newborn star was no longer newborn. It burned steady and bright, a reliable presence in the dark. Salith joined him, her light reflecting off the glass. "You are tired," she said. "Yes," he admitted. "Content," she added. He nodded. "I think so." He handed her a small object, a human artifact, a stethoscope, worn, scratched. "This belonged to my first mentor," he said. "She told me something once." Salith accepted it carefully. What did she say? "That medicine does not defeat death," Elias said. "It negotiates with it." Salith held the object reverently. "The universe listens when humans negotiate," she said. Elias laughed quietly. "I think it just gets tired of arguing with us." His health declined gently. No sudden catastrophe. No cosmic drama. Just a slow, human process of wearing out. Salith remained with him always. When he slept, she dimmed the room with her light. When pain came, she steadied his resonance. When memories faded, she reminded him who he was. One night, Elias woke and knew. The stars outside felt distant again. Not personally. Naturally, he reached for Salith's hand. "I think this is it," he said calmly. She did not deny it. "You changed everything," she said. He shook his head weakly. "We showed up," he corrected. That was enough. The medical deck was quiet. No alarms. No urgency. Just the steady hum of life support and distant engines. Elias took one final breath, surrounded not by machines, but by presence, by connection, by proof that his species had mattered. When he passed, nothing exploded. No stars died. No dimensions folded. The universe simply continued, better than before. Salith stood alone for a long time afterward. Then she did something no Virexian had ever done. She grieved openly. Across the galaxy, human crews paused. Doctors felt it first. A quiet ache, a familiar one. They did not need announcements. They knew. Memorials rose on worlds Elias had never seen. Not statues. Hospitals. Training halls. Quiet rooms where wounded beings could sit and be heard. The phrase spread organically. Not as religion. As practice. When something breaks beyond understanding, call a human. When the universe hurts, let them touch it. Centuries later, when new species emerged and old threats stirred again, the story remained. Not exaggerated, not mythologized, just told the way humans told it. Once, the universe tried to end itself through perfection, and a species that was loud, brief, and fragile refused to let it bleed alone. The stars continued to burn, not because they had to, because someone cared if they did not. And somewhere in the vast uncertainty of existence, that was enough.